Today I will be revealing 4 tricks that I use to lower my costs and increase my profit margins when I sell print on demand on Etsy. Now, to show you some examples of the kinds of profit margins I get with sales, obviously varies with each sale. This sale from 2 days ago, the customer paid $48.97, converts to this in British pounds at the time. Etsy fees cost me this much, so we're left with this much in my bank account, and that converts to $38.69 US. The fulfillment was a $24.54 total cost from my supplier, including shipping. So I was left with $14.15 profit, which is a 29% profit margin for this sale. Now, bearing in mind the average is 10 to 20% profit margin, and it tends to be lower on marketplaces as well because of fees. So I'm pretty happy with that, and I didn't use any paid advertising either. Now, this order from yesterday, the customer paid $195.89. After fees, I kept $153.54. Now, fulfillment cost $79.86, leaving me with $73.68, which is a pretty huge 37.6 profit margin. Now, this sale I made today, just a few hours ago. I got 43.41 profit with a 34.3% margin. First thing I do each month is I keep track of each individual sale and the profit I make on each sale. So this is my sheet from November. I haven't finished filling in today, but I will do that soon. And for each month I have one. So here's the one for October. Now, Etsy does show you your monthly profit, but annoyingly it doesn't show you your profit from each sale. And obviously you have to keep track of your fulfillment costs. So you can see here, obviously, this month has mostly been profitable. So far it's only 4 days in, but unfortunately not every sale is a whopping 37% profit margin like this one. Got to put that in the thumbnail to grab your attention, but I think mostly a reasonable, 20%-ish on each sale. So this helps me track exactly where I'm making money so I can fix any losses, as opposed to sort of not keeping a record at all and then not knowing until at the end of the month if you've made no profit. As you can see, I'm not always profitable. Usually this comes up to certain combinations of products and countries, especially Australia, and I end up accidentally losing a bit of money. So if you keep track, it will let you catch things like this before they get out of hand. So to fix this, I would increase the shipping costs for that area. Looks like this still wasn't enough, so I've got to go in and fix that, obviously. Now, before I talk more about that, I'm just going to talk about these various sort of supplier memberships and discounts that are a bit sneaky by design. So how do you know if you're selling enough for it to be worth the savings of getting one of these? Because, for example, the Printify Premium plan is $300 a year for 20% off all their products. So you might think, oh, like if I make more than $300 a year profit, I'm saving money, so it's worth it. But that's not quite how it works, because you're comparing to what you'd pay if you didn't have the membership, not the total amount of profit that you're making, if that makes sense. So the regular cost of your product, let's say, is like $5 without shipping. So you'll save $1 each time that you make a sale for this product. So that means to save $300, you would have to sell 300 or more products in a year for it to be worth it, which is almost a sale a day. And shipping usually costs more than the product. So let's say the total cost is $12, $7 shipping. Perfectly reasonable example for like a coffee mug or some kind of kitchenware item, right? So you have to be spending, 12 times 300, which is 3,600 a year on Printify for it to be worth it. So let's say your profit margin is like 20%. You would have to be making 4 to 5k a year in revenue to be worth it compared to not having their premium plan. So it's not a question of it whether it pays for itself, it's a question of, is it gonna be worth it compared to not having it? And all these have to be fulfilled only through Printify as well. So that's probably a bigger number than you thought. And I know most POD sellers don't make that much. So in most cases, Printify is going to be the one that makes money off of you because of this sort of sneaky maths finessery. So I know it's worth for me to have premium just off the pure volumes that I get, but you are going to have to calculate that for you, depending on what products you sell and how many orders you get. Now back to this. So the second feature you might have noticed with my more profitable products is that they are, well, they're obviously pretty expensive for the customer, but they are actually multi-quantity orders. Okay, so multiple quantity orders give you a much higher profit margin than single orders. That's because the cost of the shipping for additional products for most suppliers goes down once you ship more than one product. So giving discounts, bulk discounts and incentives for customers to buy more than one product, especially from the same supplier, will help increase your margins by quite a bit. I personally don't do this, but I have a lot of products which are just generally suitable for events or marketed as like matching, for example, husband-wife thing or boyfriend-girlfriend thing. So people often end up buying more than one whenever those things sell. Now, my third tip is to fulfill each separate order using the cheapest supply you can find for that product, the number of products ordered, and the location each time as well. So most people starting out selling print on demand, they just use one supplier because it's easy, obviously, or they use the product push function to automate fulfillment. So that means they can't really sell to certain areas because the shipping is too expensive. So for example, if your main market is New Zealand or Australia, it's pretty reasonable to use this supplier. But if you suddenly get an order from anywhere else in the world or the US, then it's going to be pretty ridiculous to ship. It's going to be way too expensive. So same goes for a supplier that's maybe the cheapest in the US or the UK. They're not going to be the cheapest for Australia or other countries, right? But you will find one that is cheaper than the others on the internet for the specific order that you're selling. I adjust the shipping costs and supplier instead based on the price of the cheapest supplier so that I can maximize my profit for different areas. Now, a concern that some sellers might have if you want to offer free shipping for your products is, will people buy if I make them pay for shipping? Now, the answer is yes, 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 and yes. Okay, so they do buy, but I keep free shipping for the US because it's my cheapest location to ship to, and it helps me to stand out in search for US customers. Now, you've got to understand that you are free to pick the cheapest supplier for your location, your number of products, and your product type, right? You don't have to stick to any one. You're free to use any legit supplier on the internet, but there's a lot of them. So Printify itself is actually a network of different suppliers. It usually has more than one supplier, as you can see, for each product. And you've also got all these other companies that offer very similar products. So to calculate the cheapest one, you're probably thinking that's going to take ages. And at the beginning it kind of did, but unfortunately this is the difference between sellers who know their product and supplying options well, meaning that they can be competitive and profit more with lower prices, and those that don't. So it's not just, SEO and knowing which niches sell. If you actually want to profit, this back-end stuff is quite important as well. But once you collect the cost and shipping information for products that sell, so as I've done here, and you do it for more orders, you start to sort of memorize the cheapest places. So I have this Word document that shows me all the shipping rates and prices for each of the products in my catalog. So if I get an order from a new location, then I can calculate the cheapest pretty quickly. I just do a calculation for this one, see if this one's cheaper. If it's not, then I move on to the next one, etc. Right? So say I'm shipping a white 11-ounce mug to the US, I use District Photo. I've memorized that's the cheapest one. If I'm shipping to Canada, then I use this one. Sometimes I use Printful because it's actually cheaper for some locations and products. You get the gist, right? So this takes a little bit of time to collect, but I think it's worth it because you can now sell to any country flexibly at a reasonable cost and maximize your profit, which is really your competitive advantage when it comes to print on demand. So the downside being that you have to fulfill manually each order, right? But let me show you a way that speeds up the process, which involves connecting your Printify or Printful account to your Etsy shop. So this here in your orders tab, there's my orders tab on Printify. You can see my orders that I've sent in. Each order from your shop will be automatically imported into your account. So if you go on the other orders tab, you can see that these orders have not yet been fulfilled. So if you click on one of these, I'm not going to because it's going to flash up the customer's personal information, but you can pick the supplier that you want for that individual order. Same thing really with Printful in your orders tab. They also import all your orders if you connect your shop. Now, because I only use Printful for some orders, most of these are not synced, and these are the ones that I actually use Printful to buy orders for. Surprisingly, even though I have Printify Premium, Printful is actually cheaper at a regular price for some products and locations. Australia. So the only way that you can really spot something like this is if you compare the suppliers for your product, which I showed you with this Word doc, right? So a lot of annoying maths, unfortunately, but I've shown you the methods that I use, and if you just take a day to sort of figure out this stuff and set it up and be clear about which supplier you're using for which location, product combination, and also know how much you make on each order and set your shipping profiles for each location and product appropriately, you can make higher profits down the line in this competitive environment. Okay, it is possible. Remember, this stuff is just data entry really, so it can be outsourced to somebody else once you're making enough. One thing I have been thinking about is sort of designing a calculator or some kind of program to help with this. I've tried ChatGPT, but it just doesn't do the calculations right. Like, I can't write something that will. So yeah, if anybody has any experience in that field, then I would love to hear from you. Just drop me an email. But I mean, otherwise, hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.